If you move, you mask.
Yeah.
All right. That was new to me. I guess it's not.
That's the rule at our office too.
Tim, we're not live yet, are we?
We are just about.
So we could be.
I think we are.
Okay.
But I'm very curious. I want to confirm it before. Yeah, right.
Clay's hair is long. I think that's Sam.
We're live? Okay. Jim, you with us? Jim, you with us?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. And if everyone will stand, we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance and moment of silence. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Well, we're getting a little closer, you know, instead of a Zoom meeting and, you know, other than Jim, we're all here, but still a little spread out, but that's good. So we're getting a little closer to normal, but I know that Ms. Slosser has lots to share with us tonight. So we'll go ahead and turn it over to her and get her superintendent's report.
Thank you very much. I want to start my superintendent's report out talking about leadership. I want to congratulate our finance director, Ruth Ann Kopenauer, on her retirement. We will be seeing a new finance director tonight. That's Mr. Scott Spalding. And I said, this is your first report. And his comment was, it's Ruth Ann's finance report. I'm just presenting it. So I just want to say publicly to thank her for her year's experience. Ruth Ann has had over 30 years experience in finance world. Congratulations to Ms. Teresa Preston, who has served as administrative assistant to myself and the board for several years, but again, over 30 years of service. And also congratulations to Marilyn Gribbins, administrative assistant to both preschool and exceptional children. These leaders in our district, and I tell them all the time that it takes every single person in our district to have a great school, and they are just as important as the people that are sitting in a variety of seats. So we want to congratulate them and tell them thank you for all of their years of service, and they have impacted the lives of children for years and years and years. And with folks leaving, we also have some additions to our family and our team. We want to welcome Miss Paige Mattingly. She's going to be the principal at Marion County Middle School. She comes to us from Washington County as an assistant principal at the high school. We want to welcome Mr. Benji Mattingly. He's going to be the new principal at Lebanon Elementary, and he comes to us from Mercer County. Also, assistant principal at Marion County Night Academy is going to be Miss Jessica Bevan. She has been serving as our instructional coach and also from LaRue County as a high school math teacher. So we are very pleased to welcome them. Like I said, we are welcoming Scott Spalding into the finance director's position, and Mr. Mike Abel is going to move into the, Mr. Spalding's position as our director of school safety and facilities. Again, I'm pleased to welcome Miss Ashley Jewell. I was very fortunate to be her high school principal at one point. Leanna Stewart and Kim Hood, they have actually been in our district, but they are moving into new positions. Leanna will be serving as administrative assistant to the assistant superintendent and supporting Kim Hood, who will be serving as the administrative assistant to the superintendent and to the board. So we just want to welcome those folks, as well as a couple of new instructional coaches. Miss Leanna Van Dyke, who has been in our district for several years teaching math at a variety of levels, and also taught adult education and GED. She will be an instructional coach at Knight Academy and the high school, and Miss Vivian May will be serving at Marion County Middle School as instructional coach. Vivian has had her career at Calvary Elementary and also at the Knight Academy. And you can't see him, but he is always behind the scenes, and that's Mr. Tim Lyons. He will be serving as our Healthy at Work coordinator, and that's definitely going to go a long way, as our chairman just talked about, as trying to get back to normal. So appreciate all those folks, and congratulations and welcome. I know we're going to have a great school year. Our district will be participating in a retreat at the KASA conference the last week in July. Marion County will be recognized as a gold standard district member at that conference. So I just want to say how proud I am of our administrators that they participate with KASA. And what that means is over 75% of our leadership team is actually participating, and our members get to take advantage of the professional growth opportunities. I will be moving from vice president to president-elect at the KASA conference this year, so I'll be serving in that capacity. I was selected to serve on the Board of Controls for the Kentucky High School Athletic Association for Regions 1 through 8. I will be serving as the female representative for those regions. And I was called and asked to serve as a mentor to a new superintendent in Rockcastle County. And she and I had a great conversation this morning, and what that tells me is the same things that we're dealing with right here in Marion County, they are dealing with in Rockcastle County. So it's nice to have another superintendent to make a connection with, and it'll be nice to visit Rockcastle County, and it'll be nice for her to come and visit Marion County throughout the year. The next item I want to touch base on is teaching and learning. Not a lot of bullets here, but we are transitioning from June to July. Not a lot of bullets, but a lot of great stuff coming up. And that's the fact that our secondary schools are partnering with SREB, and that's the Southern Region Educational Board. And several of our community members and even our board members participated in that. And we're very fortunate that they are actually going to be partnering with us on our professional growth opportunities this summer. That will be a blended model. They will be doing virtual. They're not going to be traveling here. So our staff will actually be working virtually, but then they will be given time to actually work at their own pace. And it's great because we're going to have access. So you're looking at about a 2.5 hour window with about 30 minutes for question answer. And also we have one entire day dedicated to just social and emotional learning. And that's definitely something that we've heard a lot about during COVID, but as I've said before, in Marion County, that's something that we've been working on for 2 years in our district. We know how important that is. We have a variety of instructional supports and programs for our staff and students this year, a variety of videos to support the safety. One of the guidance documents, or several of the guidance documents, I should say hundreds of the guidance documents, talk about how important it is for our staff to be trained on safety. And today we have a great partner with the Kentucky Center for School Safety. They sent out several videos, and I'm sure some folks may cringe when they hear that. Each video, is anywhere between 8 and 12 minutes. It's not going to take a long time, but it's going to give them an opportunity to get those trainings. Another training that myself, our lead psychologist, Ms. Sharp, and Mariah, our social emotional wellness educator, is we're going to participate in a QPR training. We want to see what that's all about, but it's talking about question, persuade, and refer in the event that we have a child that comes to us and we are concerned about their emotional well-being. And so we want to participate that in first. And the reason I want to do that is because if I'm going to ask our staff to participate in an opportunity, I want to do that as well. And I want to be right there beside them. And we want to make sure that our children are healthy academically, physically, and mentally. High expectation, our 6 big dreams. Let's talk about preschool and early learning. Obviously, our Dolly Parton books are still coming this way, and I want to thank the board for continuing to support that. That's something that kiddos look forward to every month in the mailbox. Also, a shout out to our ECE department and our early childhood department. When they told us that we could not test for preschool, we got on the telephone, we talked to the Department of Education, and we said, we want to screen. And we found an alternate way to do that, and that's exactly what we're doing. Through the CARES Act, we're going to be able to purchase additional technology, and Mr. Lyons and his team is working on that. You can see at the top of our screen, we have a new logo for Marion County Public Schools. Again, we're still going to dream, believe, achieve, but when we talk about Marion County Public Schools, we partnered with Ed Leader 21, and they helped us develop a new logo, and also we rearranged what our portrait of a graduate looked like. And I'm just holding those up. I'll try to show those on the screen a little bit better. Content's the same, but it's a little bit sharper look, much easier for folks to read. And we took this and we wanted them to incorporate Marion County, and you can see the knobs at the bottom of the screen, at the page. And we wanted them to understand that in Marion County, we are very committed to our kids graduating success ready, and at the center, we want our children to dream, believe, achieve, but we understand that there are components that go into that. And those are committed individuals, effective communicators, constructive collaborators, problem solvers, content masters, and creative thinking. And so we took this and we broke that down just to give everyone an idea of what each one of those means. So we're going to get those posters up. I don't have any t-shirts made up yet, so just be prepared. So excited about how we are going to, when we talk about the 6 big dreams and one of them being market, connect, and communicate, we definitely want to connect with our community. And I do think that our industries are going to like that, as well as our economic development. Our 21st century building, again, I want to say thank you to the city of Lebanon and also to our county judge and our magistrates for the partnership that we've had. But we've relocated that on this main campus, and we'll have 21st century migrant ELL, which is our English language learners. They'll be on this campus. Adult education will be moved to family literacy, which is downtown behind the Walgreens store. And then our community liaison, Miss Nancy Shockinson, she will continue to work out of our high school, our ATC, and also work with the Career Center downtown. Some good news for our leader, Miss Lily Lyons, who was a member of our Smile Club. Lily has been selected to be a UK cheerleader. So I think that's pretty cool for her. So we want to give her a shout out. And I know that we've talked about our Governor's Scholars Program, and we've talked about those kiddos, but because of COVID, we were worried that that would not take place, but they are having an abbreviated Governor's Scholars Program. So we're happy for our kiddos in that respect. And then communication, last but not least, is our online registration continues. Just remind folks that our sports plan, we are continuing with our current phase. The health department has approved that, and we will just continue to take advice from the Athletic Association. The Board of Controls, we will meet on July the 28th on Tuesday from 9 to 12. It will be a virtual meeting, so I'll be able to participate in that and our retreat. But we're going to talk about what that looks like beginning that first full week in August. Very proud of our marching band director, Daniel Beams. He submitted a great plan. I forwarded that on to the health department and it was approved. He's working closely with KMEA, the Kentucky Music Educators Association, and we want to make sure our kids are safe and healthy and also have that as an option. Our summer projects, we're really focused a lot on just cleaning and sanitizing. And you know, what I love about our custodians is that in the event a school needs help, they just jump in there and help. Our Marion County Middle School project is moving right along. Another thing I think is important to talk about under communication is the mayor asked myself, Melissa Knight, Jerry Evans, Pat Ford, and Greg Ribbons to participate in the community relations group. We're working on what our mission and vision is for that, so we want to make sure that we bring our community together and work on relationships. As far as our LPC, I know folks probably have some questions about that. It is not a board agenda item tonight because we do not have a full board. I think everyone would agree that before we look at what was sent back to the LPC, that we should have a full board before we do that. So once our board is completed in full, we will do that. And as far as that part of what we are doing, that will end on Friday, and then the board will can take action and have a special call meeting and appoint that next board member. Some good news as far as our food services food service is we are a part of community eligibility provision. And what that is that means all of our students eat free lunch and breakfast, and that rate is increased. And our status means has it been extended, so that's for the next 4 years. And also a big shout out for the Meals to Go has been extended until August the 15th. So that means the meals that you've been receiving in the mail will be extended through August the 15th. So that's a little bit about what's going on in Marion County Public Schools. Our next board meeting will be at the beginning of August, and at that point I'll be able to give you more information, especially on the teaching and learning aspect of what's going on in the district and with our professional development, and I'll be happy to keep everyone posted.
Any questions, Ms. Foster? All right, next, thank you very much. Next item is finance report. Mr. Scott Spalding.
Hello. Glenn's gonna pull it up for us. So going through it on the receipt side, you'll see motor vehicle tax were about 10% unfavorable. That's due to the county clerk's office being shut during the COVID-19. We are starting to see some influx of funds come back in as people are getting it caught back up. As that office is now back open. The utility tax is favorable, 15%. I think a lot of people use a lot more entertainment opportunities over this last few months, and so we're benefiting off of that. Our interest is favorable, 11%. A couple of things on that. The reason we're up that much is because we had a nice balance where it says the bond construction project for Marion Middle, so that's in the bank as we're paying it out. I will give you a heads up. We're notified that our interest rate is going down on that account from 1.53 to a whopping 0.25 starting July 1. So that's from our local bank there. So we will be seeing some decrease in that revenue stream. Also, Medicaid's down at 43%. That's due to last year how we were financed from receiving payment from the previous year from Lincoln Trail Health Department. The other one is on the other unfavorable 78%. That's due to a large variance due to some omitted property tax we received last year. It comes at random time, and also you have tuition for preschool. On the expense side, we have in code 2200, there you see unfavorable 11%. That's just recoding from ECE staff that was done from the prior year. The 2500 business support, that movement was moved personnel from operations to HR. And community services, they just grant funding came in for Leader in Me at a different time. Land improvements is from the architect, due to the architect paid from last year, and then the fund 5200 fund transfers received that bond sale and they transfer that funds. So that's kind of where we're at. Mr. Cox has a question of the projected carry forward contingency fund. Rick and I talked this week, and we'll know more once the final audit's done. We're probably going to be in the 5.6, 5.7 tons where we're projected to be. So we'll know more as we get this year closed out and the audit gets through the process. Any questions?
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Spalding. So the next item, I don't see anyone's name, this must be gonna be a team effort or something. Item 3C, reentry plan 2021.
I'll start.
Okay.
I'll do my best to make sure that there's been a lot of folks that have been working on this reentry plan. I want to preface this with that we have a webinar every Tuesday and have for several weeks. We have about 20 different guidance documents from the Department of Education. We receive guidance documents from CDC, from the health department and so on. So what we're trying to figure out in Marion County, what's the best way that we can go to school under the current conditions. So I'd like to start out by saying that I am optimistic that our board will pass a revised calendar. We believe that we should take advantage of something called the boat dock bill, and we would start school August the 26th. So if I'm a parent, the one thing I want to know is when school going to start. And I would recommend that we start August the 26th. That would mean that our last day of school for students would be May the 26th. And we feel pretty solid about that last day because this year, not like any other, we have been given unlimited opportunity to use our non-traditional instructional school days. Now, what this does when we take advantage of this is that students will not be required to have 170 school days. They will be required to have 1,062 hours. Now, in this revised calendar, while the start date and the end date have changed, we have elected to continue with fall break, continue with spring break, 2 weeks at Christmas break, and no early release days. That is part of our reentry plan. The next option that I want to talk to the board about and talk to the community about is the option. What are going to be our options? I know that there's been a lot of things talked about in the media. A lot of suggestions have been made. In Marion County, like we talked about with our portrait of a graduate, we are a working community, and folks, we've got parents who are ready for us to come back to school. And we are opting for in-person 5 days a week traditional school experience. Obviously, there's going to be some modifications, especially with social distancing and safety. But we want to give parents an opportunity to send their children back to school for 5 days in their school. However, we recognize that there are some families that are not ready to do that. So we want to provide a distance learning option. Now, that distance learning option is going to mirror what would go on in that traditional setting, 5 days a week for a very specific time, which would be at 8:15 to 3 o'clock, those traditional hours. But now this is not going to be the same as the NTI that we had after March the 13th. We are going to need and expect for our participants to be very active at home. The question has been asked, if my child participates in distance learning, can they still participate in extracurricular activities? And the answer is yes, as long as they are active daily participants and their grades check out the exact same way they would if we were participating in a traditional model. We know that that has been a question. So we would be monitoring all that as we go. Another question that has come up is if my child goes in person and we don't feel comfortable and we want to change our mind and we want to go into distance learning, yes, you can at any given time. But then the opposite question has been asked is if we select distance learning, but we decide that we want to come to school for in person, we are going to do entry points. This school year, we will not have 9 weeks. We will actually have more like 4 8-week sessions. And we think that if a child or a family decides they want to come back, we want to get them in school as quick as possible. We have a lot of resources. So there would be a 4-week entry point for them to return to school. Now, obviously, if you're thinking about, I'm not sure if I want to go back, or if I do go back, what are these precautions that you were talking about? And, you know, we are going to have precautions and a mask policy. So the big thing is, you know, we're going to start out and we're going to communicate all of this out, but we're going to have signage up that will help explain. We're going to practice social distancing. As you can see, our boardroom tonight is spread out at 6 feet apart. We're going to encourage healthy hygiene, which is something that we've always encouraged, but more so than ever. Temperatures will be checked daily, and that will be staff and students. And we will have a mask policy. And that will basically mean if you move, you mask. If a classroom cannot be, social distancing cannot take place, that the student will need to wear a mask. However, if social distancing can occur, then a student will be allowed to remove their mask. But during a school bus on transportation, students will be expected to wear a mask. And let me say, staff will also be wearing a mask. When a teacher's teaching, they will have on a mask. When teachers are moving or staff are moving, they will have on a mask. And so we are going to be participating in the same exact precautions. And we're going to do that, and you can see more about that as we present the plan on our website. Assigned seating. Now, when I was teaching, and I can even remember being in school, we had assigned seats, but this assigned seating is probably going to be probably taken up an entire new level, and that is that we're going to have assigned seats with our buses, in all classrooms, in our morning routine, our cafeteria, and any other situation. And the reason that that is so important is because we want to be a good partner with our health department. And our health department, in the event that someone may have been in contact with someone, or in the event that a COVID case is positive, then we can actually hand over those assigned seats to the health department, and they can dictate who actually may need to do something different or actually have some testing. And rather than shutting down an entire school or quarantining an entire school, it may be a class, or it could be a part of a class. So, you know, we want to encourage our parents to help us with these assigned seating, because what we're talking about in this plan is that we want to go to school under the current conditions. And if we want to go to school, we're going to have to take some extra precautions, the same way that each of us are taking some extra precautions to go to the grocery, to get gas, or to run those errands that we have to do, or even to go to the doctor's office. Now let's talk about transportation. As a parent, you have an option. You can either bring your child to school and you can pick them up, or sometimes it's a blended version. But in the event that you elect to use our transportation, what we're going to ask parents is we're going to ask you to please take your child's temperature before they get on the bus. In the event that their temperature is elevated, please make sure that you keep that child home and take them to the doctor, make sure they're okay. And I think we would all agree that while if someone has a fever, you do get a little scared, but in the event, there's a lot of things that cause a fever, and it may not be COVID, but if you could help us out with that, we would appreciate it. We are going to encourage social distancing prior to pickup, and actually when you're waiting to get on the bus and in the evenings. Once that bus is loaded, we will actually seat our students from the back to the front. So those family members that are living in the same household will actually sit together because they're spending time together. Again, there will be assigned seats. The bus will be disinfected after every single run, and that means in the event that your child is shuttled from the night academy to the ATC, or from the night academy to the high school, or there's any kind of busing or shuttling, after every child's off the bus, we will disinfect that with a wand. And we want you to know that there will be hand sanitizer, and the bus driver will be given the proper PPE equipment, and we are looking at face shields for our bus drivers. So that's what transportation is going to look like. Now, what we're going to do is tomorrow, We're actually going to put out a very detailed, complete plan of what I'm talking about. And what we want you to do is we want you to take the time to read this information. When you see this, it's going to be in a nice form. You're going to be able to click on the exact things that you want, and then it's going to put even more detail. We're also going to include all of the guidance documents that we've tried to take. What I say is we're basically trying to take 1,000 pages and put it into something that we can all use. And we want to give you time to look at those things. I've also completed some short video snippets of each one of these, so you'll probably hear me repeating some of these things. And then what we want to do is after we put this out on our website and social media and mass emails and put out all these links, then next week, early on Monday, we want to put out a Google form. So what this form is going to do is it's going to allow each family to let us know which option are you going to choose. Are you going to choose in person? Are you going to choose the distance learning model or another learning model? And we'll have all of that clearly defined. We do hear some things like, well, we're just going to homeschool our students. As a parent, you always have that option. Please understand that homeschool is very different than what we are going to be provided with distance learning or even our virtual academy that we do. If you're going to school with Marion County Public Schools, then you have the opportunity to participate in all of our things: food service, nurses, social emotional, guidance counseling, and our teachers. And so we want you to take the time and read through the information, check out the videos, and then next week, this is something we need. And this is something that we need every parent, every family to participate in. This form is actually going to be due August the 5th. That would have been the day that we would have started school. And then at that point, we're going to start looking to see how many students are going to participate in what type of learning. And, if there's some folks that don't have an opportunity to fill out that form, we're going to be making some phone calls. We want to be prepared. We want to be ready. We want to provide the services that you as a family want and need for your child. And I'm going to say this over and over. We want to see your students. We need your students, and we believe that your students need Marion County Public Schools. We've missed the students. This is what we live to do. We want to make sure that they're prepared and they're success ready. And so we're very excited about this opportunity. We are going to work closely with our partner, and that's Cumberland Family Medical Health. Our staff will be tested, and then we will do that on a rotational basis. Again, that's all about trying to ensure that we have a safe environment for our kids to come home to. Our custodians have done a fantastic job sanitizing and cleaning, and we're going to continue to do the same thing. We're going to provide the equipment that our kiddos need and our staff need. We're going to provide the training, and we're going to make sure that our children have an opportunity to continue their education with Marion County Public Schools. I'm sure maybe the board has had some questions maybe from the community, and if there's anything that you want to ask me right now, you're more than welcome to. If I don't know the answer, I will find the expert out there in the world that maybe can help me, and I'll be glad to do my best to answer any questions that you have.
One question that I got from a parent was if a family were to choose the distance learning option and then their child didn't participate as expected, 5 days a week, attending those virtual lessons, how will we treat that child? I know that some districts are considering removing the distance learning option from that family and potentially forcing in-person instruction, which I don't necessarily want to take that step because choices are important for parents right now. But if they choose the distance learning option, then I think students have to be responsible with it as well. So do we have any idea what that might be, what a penalty might be?
That's a good question because Mr. Lyons also serves as our district pupil personnel, and through a webinar that they attended, actually that distance learning is considered just like classroom. And so if you're absent and you're not participating in 3 days in a row, that begins that truancy process. So you will be expected to participate just like you would if you were in a traditional learning environment. So, if that's something that you're not sure that your child can do, then I would suggest that, talk with us and find out what that best option would be, because again, you will be expected to mirror that instruction.
And then I got another question from staff. So in the event that we have a COVID-19 positive case and staff are required to quarantine,
Yes.
some staff may only have 10 sick days available to them. So are we asking staff to utilize the sick days that they have if they are forced to quarantine because of potential contact, or are we working out a different option for them, to save those sick days?
Well, we've had that conversation because we know that that's going to come up, and I know that it is actually coming up in other districts. What I'm going to say is if you have a staff member that's quarantined and they're asymptomatic, what I'm going to say is they're not going to want to use their sick days, and I don't want them to have to. There would be no reason why they could not work virtually from home in that event. What we would need to do is then find someone who would facilitate that class. So it would almost be the opposite. The students would be in class and then the teacher could actually participate at home and do it that way. In the event that someone tested positive and they did have symptoms, I'm pretty sure that there are, we've received guidance from the Department of Labor about what that looks like, and that there are so many days that we can actually provide to them so that they do not have to use their sick days. Now, what I am optimistic about is that doesn't happen often, but when that does have to happen, we are going to work with them on a case-by-case basis, and we want to be fair and reasonable.
I have a question.
Okay.
I had a parent ask if the child is in traditional setting and they become sick, do we move them into the non-traditional setting as far as being learning from home? That way they're not counted absent or in truancy also.
So if the child is tested positive or they have to go into quarantine, correct? Yes, we would move them into that distance learning model. And so for those 14 days, if they were well, again, asymptomatic and they're not ill and cannot, then yes, we would work with them so that they could work with that teacher and stay up on their lessons the exact same way.
Another question I had came from staff as
Okay.
far as how the testing was going to be, because they were really concerned on
That's,
that.
I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, I'm just taking these notes just to make sure that we can ask that, because in this document that we've created, we also have frequently asked questions at the end of the document. So the testing, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think we all heard horror stories about the first test, and our tests are actually going to be the new tests that are not as evasive, and I'm just going to say it like it is. It's not supposed to go to your brain, okay? So it's just more of a swab. I have contacted, or Mr. Lyons has contacted them. I'm going to go ahead and volunteer first. We're going to do a video, and I will be the first person to do that. So as far as I have been told, but I'll let you know, it's not supposed to be the one that has been pretty scary for some folks to take. Much easier, and it will be the rapid testing, and you will know within 15 minutes whether it is positive or negative. So, and another question that Mr. Lyons and I talked about is about how much time is a staff member going to be out, of their day. It's going to be about a 30-minute process, more or less. I think less would be the way. We will rotate that. We will be in one central location. We're looking at doing Marion County High School cafeteria. And so, for instance, let's say we are going to start that August 5th, 6th, and 7th. And let's say from 9 to 9:30, the central office staff is assigned to that first rotation. And then we will just rotate our schools through that with times. And obviously, if something comes up, we're going to switch folks in and out. So hopefully I can get the test done sooner versus later, and we can do a video and we can get that out to staff so they can actually look at the swab, and hopefully I can be a good patient.
If you another volunteer, I'll be glad. I did do the other test, and it is kind of traumatizing at first, so I just
Well,
wanted to share that.
Right.
One other one that popped into my head. I know that with our reentry plan, we are encouraging a lot of outdoor use, whether it's taking a class to teach them outdoors. What are our plans with regard to PE classes or recess? You know, we know that outdoor play is important for lots of kids. So want to make sure that we are still including that outdoor activity as part of a classroom day, but you know, what specifically, or do we have an idea of how we're going to handle those?
Well, a good question. We actually had a health and PE teacher that participated in our reentry plan as we went through this. It's probably something I should have said, is that we did have a group of parents and teachers that looked at our reentry plan as we were going through this. And we do have guidance. Basically, what we've been told is, again, we want kids to go outside. We are going to, obviously, we want social distancing. As far as like, what's that look like? What they are telling us is that when they come back in, to make sure that they sanitize, good hygiene. We want our kids to go outside. We've even again talked about just going outside for an outdoor classroom. Some schools have spaces where that can happen. Some schools have picnic areas. We've even talked about having tents outside, you know, the bigger tents where you could actually set up tables and do classroom instruction or maybe lunch, so that kids can actually spread out and have an opportunity to take off their mask and do those kinds of things. So we want to encourage that, and we know that, you know, the rumor was that kids are going to go to school, they're going to sit in the room and they're going to sit in the same seat and they're never going to move again, and that's not going to be the case. We're going to make sure that our staff has the equipment they need to sanitize rooms as they move, and we're going to have hand washing stations and the mask and different things like that. I'm optimistic about outdoor play.
Okay. Jim, any questions?
None right now, no.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Slosson. We'll move on to 4A. Need a motion for 4A.
I'll make a motion to consider approval of the 2021 Marion school calendar.
Second.
Any questions or discussion about the calendar, about the maroon calendar?
I do like the fact that our calendar is, has the possibility of being much more concrete than it has. I think, you know, this is such an uncertain time, and so any certainty that we can provide parents, families, we ought to jump at it. So the fact that our calendar can provide some certainty to families out there, I think is a huge positive, so.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because what we want families to know is, in the event that we were to have a weather day, or let's say it's not COVID, maybe it's flu, we're gonna utilize our non-traditional instruction. So we want to be prepared, and our staff is going to be prepared for that, because it's going to be just an ongoing curriculum. It's not going to be what we've seen in the past for that NTI opportunity. And I agree, a good solid end date.
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Need a motion for 4B.
Make a motion to consider approval of 2021 reentry plan.
I'll second. Any further questions or comments on the reentry plan? Okay.
Our staff did a great job putting that together. They took a lot of documents, and I'm really proud of the work that's going on. And I know that our principals will do a great job executing that within the building. And I know that what things look like in one school may look a little bit different about where parents drop off or where they enter. I appreciate everyone being patient with us on our reentry plan. I appreciate the community with that, but I know our principals and our staff are going to do a great job with this, and we're going to be right there to help them any way we can.
Whenever anybody's asked me questions in the community, you know, without being able to share details, I've let them know that from the news that I've heard out of other districts, I believe that our plan is the most achievable of any that I've seen. It doesn't ask parents to straddle schedules. It doesn't ask teachers to straddle learning formats. It allows people, again, a little bit of that certainty so that they know what's happening as much as we can possibly give them that. I know a lot of parents out there were concerned about having to choose between having a child or having a job. And so I am incredibly appreciative of the fact that we're not making parents make that choice. And again, I know that a primary concern for a lot of our teachers were they didn't know how they were going to do in-classroom instruction and then manage online learners too. So, you know, I was really thrilled with the fact that we took a lot of things into consideration when you all put together the draft. And like I said, I think it's the most achievable of anything that I've seen. So,
Thank you. I appreciate all the hard work y'all do.
Ms. Foster, what?
We're in a hard time.
Can you hear me?
I feel that everybody is really working as a team. You really see it now, so I appreciate every bit of it. Thank you.
Yes,
Jim?
Mr. Eubank.
It's another step.
Try again.
Hear me?
Did
You hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
yes.
That was like.
We didn't hear you, Jim.
What was feedback like at the other meeting with parents and staff?
They asked a lot of good questions. Mr. Eubank asked what was the feedback. They asked a lot of good questions. They understood the way we were trying to space this out. It was actually very positive. The one question that was brought up with our teachers, they were concerned that in regards to distance learning, that they were afraid that parents may think that that would be similar to what we did with our NTI last year in March. And my comment to that was, you know, if folks decide to do that, that's where we're going to have to come together as a team and make phone calls and have conversations to ensure that families understand exactly what those requirements are. And so we feel like there's going to be a lot of communication that's going to take place. They also were concerned about what about if a parent doesn't fill out the form. And again, I said, that's where we're going to divide and conquer. And we've got to call, and we've got to make contact. So I think they were really pleased. They had great questions, a lot of feedback, and it was very representative sample of the community and our district. So they asked good questions, just like you know, the board has asked tonight. And as they did that, then we made sure that we were wording things exactly the way, not to confuse folks.
Yeah, so I'll echo what Peggy and Carrie said. You know, it's an impressive plan that's put together based on all the restrictions that's in place, and I think that what we've realized through this and will continue to is it's probably going to change some, and we're probably going to have to make adjustments. And I think that it's, you know, it's going to take a consolidated effort on the part of the staff, the community, the students, to be patient and flexible. One of the most challenging things probably this year will be to maintain a good attitude throughout, but I think it's vital for this year in particular, because it's going to be, you know, it's going to be completely different than what people are trained and prepared for, but it's going to be important that our staff maintain that attitude, so that it filters down into the classrooms and school buses and so forth, and so that we can provide the best experience possible for the students this year, because it's going to be different for them too. So far so good. I think we've shown that we can put together as as Carrie said, an achievable plan that takes lots of factors into consideration, and we'll just have to continue to do that and continue to improve it. And then, you know, if you can get through this, then it's just gonna get easier next year and the next year, right?
Don't say
I'm
that,
sure
Fran.
that-
Don't put that out there now.
It'll be just another challenge there.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's vote on 4B. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. We have a reentry plan.
Great.
Need a motion for 4C. I'll move that we consider approval of mandatory COVID-19 testing for MCPS staff prior to 21 school start date.
I'll second.
Any questions or comments on that?
I think we've mentioned that the testing will be rolling. So do we have a rolling schedule for the rest of the year? Or are we simply testing staff initially and then, like, what's our plan after that?
We will be doing that, and that actually the guidance from the Department of Education is that you continue that. And I think a lot of, I lot of districts are gonna do the same thing. We don't have those rolling dates yet. What I like about August 5th, 6th, and 7th is that in the event that we did have a staff member that did test positive, that 14-day quarantine, that would give them time to actually be able to start school. So we wouldn't be looking at some of those days like what we're talking about. But yes, we will start on that. And Cumberland Family Medical, they have been just fantastic to work with. I mean, if I reach out to them, email, phone call, text message, it's just an immediate response. And so I'm so thankful that we have them. But yes, we're going to get that going. And I think that's going to make all of us feel better. And I know that if I am in the shoes of sending my children or not, I mean, you're going to want to know. And so we're going to, Mr. Lyons, our Healthy at Work coordinator, will definitely keep the schedule flowing.
Yeah, I think that was one of the, the questions with regard to frequency after that initial testing is what, if somebody tests negative on August 7th and then they get exposed on August 8th, how quickly might we know that, if we're rolling testing throughout the school year? And it will absolutely give us peace of mind to start off the school year. But again, that just rolling testing, understanding that people may not be symptomatic. And I know it would give me peace of mind just knowing that I don't have the opportunity to spread it to somebody else. We had a scare in early March with one of my children and my grandparents, and I was devastated at the possibility of having exposed my grandparents to this thing.
Absolutely.
And so I wouldn't want one of our staff to have to carry that potential guilt with them, because I dealt with it for only 6 hours and it was the worst thing I've dealt with in a really long time. But I also want us to have that peace of mind rolling throughout the school year. So I didn't know what kind of that time frame in between somebody getting tested at the beginning and the next time they would get tested.
And when we get a good idea from them on what they believe that looks like, I'll present that at the next board meeting, which I believe will be August the 6th. So once we get started, we'll talk to them about what that looks like. And I know that as cases come about, the health department is working diligently. And if they feel like someone has been in contact with someone, there's that contact tracing, and I know that folks are getting tested, and thankfully we do have the option now to know within 15 minutes, and we're not waiting 7 days to find out. And so hopefully every day it just gets a little better.
I'd like to add to that, if a staff member feels that they might have it, it's a possibility for them to come and say,
Yes.
hey, and that would include a parent wanting their child to be tested due to that. I just want to make sure that that's
Yes.
available to them.
Absolutely, and it's at no charge to the staff or the child. So if they feel like that someone needs to be tested, we can provide that because we're gonna have a nurse in every building. So that's positive.
I just want to clarify something as well real quick, that we can't provide any kind of testing to students, can we?
Yes, so
Can
we provide testing to
testing
students?
to
Yes.
students?
We can, Jim, we can provide that if that is something that they want to participate in, we can do that.
Okay, so we can test students as well,
Yes.
not just staff.
Mhm.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on 4C? Okay. Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Need a motion for 4D.
Make a motion to consider approval of the fiscal year 21 MCPS employee handbook.
I'll second.
Peggy second. Any questions or comments?
Any substantial changes from what we've seen in the past?
So, I have a question. With the COVID-19, will that make any changes within this handbook as far as, if a student totally refuses to follow any of all the guidelines?
This is the employee.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
This is the employee handbook. So, we'll-
Okay.
but that's on there too.
Okay.
Eventually, we'll get to the student handbook.
Okay. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Need a motion for 4E.
I'll move that we approve the 2020 policy update number 43 and procedure update number 24.
I'll second.
Peggy second.
I know part of one of our policies is to further define fundraising. And in the past, we have eliminated donors choose or crowdfunding sources as an opportunity for teachers to raise funds for their classrooms. Are we making any movement on bringing that back as an option for them? I know that there was some issues with reporting and things like that, and the Donors Choose website specifically provides a toolkit for districts, so I didn't know if
I've been asked by a local staff, employee back in the summer, and we're looking into what is allowable to make sure it applies to regular and everything like that. So that is something on the table that's being looked into. There's no final at this time.
Yeah, I think it, I've talked about it before, but I think if we can't provide an alternative to that resource, then it's important for us to be able to allow them to utilize that, of course, within, the guidelines and the standards by Red Book. So,
And, hopefully it's something as simple as that faculty member reaches out and asks permission and that we are aware of, and that we would actually see documentation from Donors Choose to say they raise X amount of money and that we know that that amount of money goes into their account. So,
I think that makes it cleaner and line correctly.
Yeah.
Always any kind of difficulties of leaving that.
absolutely. Like I said, Donors Choose has a great district toolkit, as well as it even has toolkits for board members if you want to get on there and look at it, because it connects with guidelines from NSBA. So I think it's a good opportunity, and if we can make it happen, then I think that would be spectacular.
I have a question I want to raise up. The money that is raised by the students and the staff, is it be used during that school year, or I know it had went out further?
Correct. So unless it's identified, let's say for instance, a club takes a trip and the fundraising leading up to, as long as it's identified in advance, they can carry multiple years. But yes, traditionally, but a child participate in a fundraiser, it needs to be spent on that child in that particular time frame.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Need a motion for 4F.
I move we consider approval of the 2021 Student Code of Conduct.
Second.
Jim second. Any questions?
That's where mine came in.
okay, so, Ms. Downs asked the question, in the event that a child refused to participate in precautions that align with COVID, what would happen? That would be no different. The principal would handle that on a case-by-case basis, and they would have, that's where they're going to encourage, and then, obviously try to work with that family to make sure. So it'd be no different than if there was another rule that they chose not to comply with.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Need motion for 4G.
Make a motion to consider approval of the fiscal year 21 English language learner policy and procedure plan.
Second.
Questions or comments? Okay, all in favor say aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Need a motion for 4H.
I make a motion, we consider approval to establish a second position for social emotional wellness educator. That's to be funded by KCSS.
I'll second.
Second. Any questions or comments on that?
I think social and emotional wellness is going to be of even more importance in the coming years, just dealing with the aftermath of this. So I think the more resources we can dedicate towards that area will be truly important.
I've got a question. Does the funding for that have a defined time frame?
Actually, for the moment, that is for this year. We received extra money for this year, so, I'm optimistic that that will happen again. I think, like Carrie said, they are going to see this as something important, and the Kentucky Center for School Safety, if given the opportunity, they want to fund additional resources in this manner.
Definitely.
So I'm really happy that our district is ahead of the game on this.
Me too. Any other questions? Okay, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Moving on to student support services. Need a motion for 5A. I move we consider approval of establishing a position for Hugh C. Spalding / Marvel principal. Second. Any questions?
So what will happen to the current director position that exists there?
Currently, that director's position does not have any additional extended days or any kind of stipend, but the director, we need a principal's position. So that person can continue to carry on as the director of Hugh C. Spalding and continue to help with Marvel. But what we've come across is things like our school report card, our school improvement plans, and all of those things. Since it is an A5 school, a separate school, we have found that there is a need for a position that holds certification as principal to carry that out. And to be honest, I'm not sure what this school year looks like. We may have some folks that want to do virtual learning, which is case by case, class by case, work at their own pace, which is very different than that distance learning. So last year we had 140 students enrolled in that. And, just not sure what that's going to look like, and we may have more. So I'm just looking at, I'm trying to think, out in the future. And I think it's something that we need. And again, I'm glad that we have our Marvel Academy so that we can do those kinds of things.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Need a motion for 5B.
I move we consider approval of the 2021 revised salary schedule.
I'll second.
So the revision is to add for the extra days in the stipend. And so this position is a principalship, but it doesn't fall in line with days or the supplement that other principal positions get. What's the rationale there?
Well, it's just a start, and there's not an SBDN count. A little bit different, not as many students, not as many staff to supervise. So I thought we would start as a starting point. If I see that those folks need additional days or more responsibility, I would come to you and ask that. I do feel like that person, there's a lot of training that you do in the summer, and then just that responsibility many times in the evening, things come up. with some of our kiddos, and they do have some of that responsibility. So it's just a start. I feel like it's a fair and reasonable amount
Okay.
in comparison to what our principals at the building level with site-based counsel and a number of children and a number of staff members to supervise. And that's another thing with the principal's position. We need someone that can evaluate certified staff, and only a principal can do that, so.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Need a motion for 5C.
I make a motion, we consider approval of fidelity bond for board treasurer in accordance with KBE regulations.
I'll second.
Questions or comments? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Need a motion for 5D.
I make a motion to consider approval of Marion County Middle School freezer bids.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Now 5E.
I make a motion to consider award bid for Marion County Middle School freezer to C&T Design.
Second.
Any questions?
Just to clarify for those watching out there, the CNT design offered the lower of the two bids, so that's typically what we've done. Is there any difference in warranties or anything like that?
No, it's straightforward, and also this is being paid by grant fully.
Spectacular.
That's a nice
This would-
additional piece of information. Mr. Spalding, thank you.
Ms. Wheeler has done a fantastic job with writing grants. I want to give her a big shout out. She brings in the grants, and so very, very pleased with that.
Great. All right, so all in favor, say aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Need a motion for 5F.
Make a motion, we consider approval of Omni Commercial Pay Application Number 5 for MCMS Edition for $76,733.09.
Second.
Are we looking on budget?
Yes.
We've done a lot.
Yeah, I was there today, actually, they're putting the walls up on the second floor, and it's, they've made a lot of progress in the last weeks. It's been dry, so they're moving right along. I'm hoping by the end of next week, we'll be all the concrete walls, block walls will be up, and we'll be putting system, roof system in, so. They're taking advantage of the weather.
Good.
Good deal. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Need a motion for 5G. I move we consider approval of Cumberland Family Medical Center's school-based satellite clinic agreement.
Second.
Any questions? Okay, all in favor, say aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Need a motion for 5H.
I'll make a motion, we consider approval of disposal of technology surplus items.
I'll second.
Any questions?
Is this just bad stuff, Mr. Lyons? Just stuff that's went bad or
It's old.
over?
You think this thing has lost any value?
Well, any of the machines are going to be pre-Windows 10 machines, which is Windows 7 and everything below is no longer supported. So we have a state recycle contract that comes and they recycle all the parts. So.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Need a motion for 6A through O, student learning and support consent items.
I'll make a motion, we consider approval of all consent agenda items 6A through O.
A second.
Any discussion on any of the items listed? Okay,
The bulk milk dispenser, what is that?
You're just gonna,
Okay,
Just
do
like-
we have any concerns with the use of that right now?
Well, we've not got that far, but, we will have to practice healthy hygiene and, we'll work with Ms. Wheeler and the folks from KDE to find out their recommendation.
Any discussion on any of the other items? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 7, acknowledgement of personnel actions, so acknowledged. I need a motion for adjournment.
Motion.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Go put your feet back in the